Pope Francis achieved many firsts as the leader of the world's 1.3 billion Catholics. Jorge Mario Bergoglio was born to Italian immigrants in Buenos Aires, Argentina. In 2013, he became the first pope from Latin America and the first Jesuit to head the Catholic Church, choosing the papal name Francis after Francis of Assisi, a saint known for his humility and simplicity. He was 76 then. Francis favored a less formal approach than other popes and lived modestly, choosing to sleep in a simple Vatican guest house rather than the papal apartment in the Apostolic Palace. The Pope angered conservative Catholics by softening the stance of some doctrines, but he was firm on abortion.
Abortion is murder. No half words. Those who carry out abortions kill.
He upheld official Catholic teaching that any sexual act outside of traditional marriage is a sin, but pushed for ending persecution of homosexuals worldwide and supported the inclusion of LGBTQ+ people within the Church.
If a person is gay and seeks God and has goodwill, who am I to judge him?
He widened access to communion for those who were divorced and remarried. Elisabetta Peake, who wrote the book Francis' Life and Revolution, said Pope Francis brought many estranged Catholics closer. Francis expanded the role of women at Masses and in Vatican leadership, but stood firm on the Church's position that only men can be ordained priests. Jesuit theologian Father Joseph Fessio told VOA that Francis's vague and casual remarks on some key social issues at times led to confusion.
He's often ambiguous. It's not actually clear what he's saying. He'll make remarks at 10,000 feet in the cabin of an airplane. Not the same thing as an encyclical, but modern media treats things as everything equally. So there'll be some confusion, but it will go. It'll pass. We've had good popes and bad popes, and I think Francis is a good pope. But I don't think he's as clear nor as profound as his two predecessors.
Francis sent a letter to U.S. bishops saying aid to migrants is a moral obligation, and rebuked high-ranking Catholic members of the U.S. administration for their stepped-up efforts to enforce immigration laws and mass deportations. He traveled to more than 60 countries as Pope. His health deteriorating and in a wheelchair, Francis toured 4 Asia-Pacific nations in 2024. In South Sudan, at Mass before thousands, he called for peace. In Iraq, he tried to mend divides between Christians and Muslims. In Cuba, he worked to soften U.S.-Cuba relations. China never invited him, but he sealed a controversial and historic agreement on how Beijing appoints Catholic bishops. Pope Francis worked for but did not achieve a peace settlement between Moscow and Kyiv on the war in Ukraine.
The Church has spoken and says no.
Pope Francis was chosen after Pope Benedict became the first pope to resign for health reasons, setting off an unusual decade with 2 living popes until Benedict's death in December 2022. Francis suffered lifelong medical issues, losing part of a lung in his youth. In later life, he endured knee problems, recurring pulmonary issues, and sciatica. Pope Francis entered a Rome hospital in mid-February 2025 with a respiratory infection that worsened. Francis named 110 of the 140 cardinals who will be eligible to take part in the papal conclave that will decide who the next pope will be.